item 30, please.
Really good.
And as it say, recommendations from the Regulations and Consents Committee.
Chaired that one.
And Tim chaired it on that occasion.
I was just going to say I'll defer to Tim because I was away for that meeting. So Tim, if you'd like.
Well, if I'll get Tim to introduce the report, and then I'll look for a mover and a seconder, and we can have some discussion, and people can raise any questions that that they want, and then we'll have the debate. Right? Okay, so Tim.
Thank you, Leanne. Look, very simply, the staff came and looked and wanted to do a partial review. We as a committee thought we may as well get sorted and get on to the issue, and so we moved that we would rely on Carlene's powers to put in a temporary closure wherever required, but while we had that tool, we would ask for a full review of the camping bylaws. That's it in a nutshell, nice and simple, and yeah, so I'll move it.
Very good. So you might have an amendment. So
yes.
Yeah. So and your amendment is.
So I've got that as an amendment which reflects the need to do something about the self-contained situation on Banks Peninsula.
People are clear that that's only Christchurch City Council.
Yeah, I mean anything we do within
the
Chief Executive's powers under the Act or the bylaw is only relates to City Council controlled area. Yeah, that's understood. And I mean there are some areas of the conservation land that wouldn't be covered by this, for example, and other privately owned areas. So I'd like to move that amendment to solve the upcoming, well, may well be an upcoming problem over the next summer season, in the context that we're working on the bylaw in that time. I'd also like to respond to the first of the deputations by including a further amendment that picks up all of the issues in Dr. Goldspink's point 1 on his paper that he's handed out, that says a full review of the bylaw to include, and then all of the bullet points that Chris has given us, so discussions at the national level, working at the regional level, all of those 1, 2, 3, 4 bullet points.
Probably take it out of the last slide. It's probably accessible.
And then I'd like to foreshadow a further amendment that if my amendment number 3 does not carry, that we request that the renewal, the review of the bylaw be completed by the 1st of December 2016, and appropriate resources be committed to this work.
Well, what I'd be keen to explore initially is whether we can actually get an agreed motion, because there's no need to have a separate debate.
I mean, what I'm trying to achieve is that we don't go into next summer with non-self-contained freedom camping allowed anywhere on Banks Peninsula except where we specifically restricted it as the restriction stands at the moment.
So are you happy for you to be a mover of an expanded resolution and for Andrew to be the seconder of it?
I just want to hear from other councillors, because it's not just Banks Peninsula that was an issue. There were other areas. So up there at the moment, it's got Banks Peninsula Ward and the presentations. But I would like to hear from other councillors to see. I mean, we've got around the estuary, etc. And it was the non-contained that are the issue.
Yeah,
and maybe I can comment.
So
my purpose in putting it forward just for Banks Peninsula is because that's the area that I'm familiar with, and those are the deputations that we've heard, but I'm totally open to what I'm suggesting taking effect across the whole CC and would support that.
Point of order, Leanne. I wanted Andrew to be able to say his bit there, so I wasn't going to jump up quickly then. I just wonder if what's being said makes absolute sense. What doesn't make sense is the standing orders around this. So I think Andrew might need a little bit of help for the benefit of getting something that works here. And may I just suggest that before we can put amendments, we probably need to get the substantive seconded. What Andrew has said, I don't think anyone by and large will be vehemently opposed to what's being suggested, because it's quite logical and pragmatic.
You may not have heard me say when I intervened that we were going to see if we could get an agreed resolution. not look to
What you
the
need to do is you need to go back and you
substantive
need to be the seconder for the substantive,
motion.
and that could be
You
Andrew.
don't actually have to tell me what to do, and with respect. What I said was, can we get an agreed resolution so that no one needs to move an amendment?
I would never
And
tell
that's
you
what I
what to
was
do.
trying to
I
do.
would suggest.
And if I am suggesting myself that if we can get to that point, and what we'll do is we'll leave the wordsmiths to do that, because we have come time and time again with passing resolutions where the wording hasn't been sufficiently accurate. There's plenty of time to get the wording resolved between now and when we actually move and second a resolution and get it debated. But I'm getting a sense that there is general agreement around the table to have that work done, and in the meantime we'll take questions on the issues that are contained in the report, and then we'll work on, and in the meantime people will work on the detail of the wording. So has anyone got any questions for staff in relation to the report? David?
I don't have any question for the staff, but I probably want to foreshadow a further amendment in that we have this problem, and again it's another issue where central government has given the problem to a territorial authority to deal with, and we
Sorry,
have...
I thought I heard Andrew say the whole of that back page, so it isn't actually just that. The first one is urge CCC to work with other councils, LGA, National Government, to review the Freedom Camping Act. So,
But I just think we need to... We're
I
going to
totally
put all
agree,
those bits into our...
because when we get to it, I will inform people about the response that I've had from South Island mayors. I've written to them all. I haven't got responses from them all yet, but I'm getting a very clear picture of the extent of this as an issue that is really a national issue. So it is a central government issue, because we have to only create a bylaw in the context of the legislative framework that allows us to do so.
Well, I think
And it is not an effective mechanism for dealing with the issue.
Certainly it's paramount that we are aligned across the country, or at least the South Island, in our thinking.
Well, I started with the South Island, but we've got a local government New Zealand conference coming up, and I'm absolutely positive that we will have a remit on this matter.
Thank you. Strangely enough, I actually have a question for staff. So, getting back to business, what is the reality? And thank you for you and your staff for the work that you've done. I know it's been an interesting project and a lot of hard work. But how realistic is it that we could get a full review done prior to the summer season, December or along those lines?
The advice that we'd had from the strategic planning unit was that it wouldn't be feasible to get a whole review done before next summer, which is why the original recommendation was that we engage with partial review so that we could address what we saw as being the key problem, which are the non-self-contained vehicles, and specifically at that time the 5 designated sites. So my understanding from the team is that to do a full review of the bylaw in the timescale that we have available, we wouldn't necessarily get the most effective review that we possibly could.
So what would be the timeline that you would need to achieve what we want, the full review and quality review?
Ruth brought up at the Regulation and Consents Committee that she believed that the May 2017 date was a more appropriate timeline to be working to in order to get that full review.
Thank you.
Phil and Andrew.
Thanks for the report. My question really is around the review and what it might be able to contain, given the time limits too. In terms of us being able to manage the freedom camping issues, given that we would also rely on central government and aren't sure how they might assist us, could the review also include some practical possibilities as to how council might manage freedom camping, like for example including using some council land as a special areas for freedom camping, and which might include some payment to those campers. Are those? Is it possible that within the review we're able to receive some practical options to manage these issues?
I think if a full review is conducted, that basically all opportunities that are available could actually be explored. So in terms of, I know that there are a number of individuals who are already looking at exploring low-cost camping ground options, certainly within the city boundaries. The issue around freedom camping is that once a fee becomes payable, it no longer is freedom camping, whether that is a fee or a donation or in whatever way that forms. But there are certainly opportunities for council to explore whether or not they wish to actually manage another campground, as we already do manage a number of campgrounds, and whether or not they want to look at other options, be that different fee structures, etc., for existing campgrounds as well. So those are the things that, if a full review takes place, could actually be looked at.
Thanks, Fiona.
Aren't we really in the position where all of this work has already been done? So it's not that we're starting from ground zero. We've already done a lot of the work. This is sure, it's a substantive review, but I can't believe that it can't be done, given that other councils have developed perhaps more effective mechanisms for resolving this. So in one of the bylaws that I've got feedback on, they've actually, in the Buller area, they've actually worked in collaboration with DOC so that the rules are the same. They're identical. So, and by creating an environment where the rules are the same in council-controlled areas and in DOC areas, they've actually achieved a perfect outcome. But their problem exists with the fact that not all the Freedom Camping Bylaws are the same, and not all of them are enforced. So if you've got a neighbouring one, and this is why it's just ridiculous to think of Christchurch as separate from Selwyn, as separate from Waikarere, and then them separate from Timaru and Oamaru and all of the other parts of the whole of the South Island. I mean, does anyone actually notice the border when they cross it from one region to another, or one district from another?
I think part of the issue there is the requirements on us in terms of what we need to be satisfied of to make a bylaw. We have to have the evidence of the issues in our area, and issues, in one area are different,
Which is what suggests to me that the Act is fundamentally flawed.
I agree.
Right. So we're all agreed that the Act is fundamentally flawed. So I think that the number one element of this is working with with other councils, the LGNZ it is, and take out reference to central government. Sorry, because obviously to have the government review the Freedom Camping Act. And sorry, number 4 should be where you've got C, you turn C into 4, that the council undertake a full and thorough review of the bylaw. So and then, but can you work with some people about getting the wording right?
Can I just make a I've just got a suggestion, and I've just talked to Andrew before. And G, the issue is the main issue is non-self-contained. So could we change that to all of Banks Peninsula, from all of Banks Peninsula to all of the Christchurch City Council area?
Yeah.
Because I think it's going to go one thing.
There is a general view. So let's so can you change the wording of the last one? I don't know that it's hotspots and extension, but just
I don't know that E should be in relation to the full and thorough review of the bylaws. That's sort of preempting what
okay. So
ultimately be.
So make that number 5 and say implement a what have you got the power to do? A temporary
extension to the temporary closure.
Implement an extension to the temporary closure to include a prohibition on all non-self-contained.
Sorry, can I just make a comment on that? Because the bylaw gives the power to the chief executive to impose a temporary closure, and that's what the chief executive did with the 5 designated self-contained non-self-contained sites in March. So the previous committee's recommendation was to request the chief executive to renew the temporary closure. My advice to the chief executive in respect of a total prohibition of non-self-contained across the whole of Banks Peninsula would be that is beyond her powers in clause 10 of the bylaw. That is effectively her stepping into the shoes of the council and making the bylaw to prohibit self-contained on Banks Peninsula, and that's the purpose behind that clause 10 is to deal with issues as they arise and deal with temporary closures if needed for a particular matter, which is why the committee's original recommendation is I believe the correct recommendation and all that the chief executive could look at.
I mean, we'll take a break before we get to the final wording of all of this, because I'd like to get the wording absolutely right. But let's carry on with the questions.
Thank you, and I'm not surprised at that legal advice. That was the question that I was about to ask, in fact, because there's no point in passing a resolution which then the legal advice to the chief executive is not going to allow that resolution to be performed. So that brings me to my next question, which is to really further drill down into how possible it is to get a full review of the bylaw in place by the 1st of December, because if we're not able to get that blanket restriction on non-self-contained across the peninsula or the whole city as desired, then that really speaks to we need to do something before the start of the next summer season. Otherwise, we're going to be looking at a similar situation, or possibly worse, than we've had this year. So if we were to put extra resources or to prioritise the review of the bylaw, and certainly given the comments the Mayor made just a few minutes ago about the volume of work that was done on this already before we arrived at the original bylaw, I really would encourage that we consider whether it actually could be possible with appropriate resourcing to get this done by the 1st of December. And it may not be a question the staff in front of us can ask, but can answer. But I really need to know that we could do that if we put all resources into it, because that's what we need to do. So the question really is there any way that we can resource upscale to get the bylaw review done by the 1st of December?
I don't know that it is a question that we can ask, but I know part of the consideration probably for thinking that maybe by March, but to be safe, let's say May, we'd have it done by, was the fact that of the election period coming up and the availability of councillors for hearings and things like that. So, and then of course the Christmas period. So I don't know. I guess anything's possible if you throw sufficient resource at it.
I'm free about whether we can do this legally. I'm just wondering, in terms of 5, a prohibition on all non-self-contained freedom camping. My understanding earlier was that, in fact, under the current Act, we could only actually have that prohibition on land that was owned by council.
No, but that's what it means.
It's extending.
That's what it means.
It means that. Okay. Like to be clear on what we can do and what we can't.
No, but that's why I asked the question at the beginning, because I didn't want anyone left with the view that we could extend it beyond our own scope. Yeah.
Thank you. Just while we're developing a multi-pronged approach with government, I hope. In terms of other councils, Judith, are there any that have a total kind of prohibition through their bylaws on non-self-contained?
Yes, I think there are other councils that have a ban on non-self-contained camping across their whole district. Presumably they've satisfied themselves with the tests and the section
over the
be able to do that.
Reasonability. So we would need to undertake that. But have you heard of any?
It's part of the work that needs to be done, or further work that would need to be done to investigate whether there's sufficient evidence.
Have there been any challenges to those councils with that?
No, they haven't, as far as I'm aware.
Okay, thank you.
There could be challenges, not just through a judicial review, but through somebody challenging and infringement notice. But we haven't
So
heard of anyone of that happening.
MCA hasn't challenged.
Well, they challenged a bylaw in relation to prohibitions in relation to all freedom camping that affected self-contained as well as non-self-contained.
Okay, but not on
But
just...
not any
sold
challenges
on.
just related to non-self-contained.
Could we do a two-step process? I mean, would that be within our rights, so that the first step would be the focus solely on the non-self-contained?
Yes, I believe that would be a partial review, but and probably going a little further than the original staff recommendation was.
So there is potentially to do the initial review in a time frame that we would require for it to be implemented by the beginning of summer on this non-self-contained.
The non-self-contained is the issue.
Yeah.
And then would we continue with full review still
Yes.
by May?
Yes.
Yeah, so that we achieve, because I think what we're trying to achieve is that we solve the immediate issue before the beginning of the next summer season, and we resolve the wider issue as soon as possible, but anticipating that will take time because it is quite a big piece of work to do properly.
Okay, so would there be some work done on changing the wording of number 5 to say undertake an urgent review of the rules relating to non-self-contained freedom camping to be implemented by the beginning of next summer? Yes? So play around with the wording and get that right. Yanni?
Thank you. I had 3 questions. So one was just around the bylaw making provision. I think was a comment made previously that the Freedom Camping Act is the problem, but my understanding is that, and it may be included in the Freedom Camping Act, that it's the Local Government Act that's got a test when creating a bylaw around whether it's the most effective way of addressing a problem, whether the bylaw is the most appropriate and proportionate way of addressing the perceived problem. Does that come from the Freedom Camping Act, or is that from the Local Government Act?
That's from the Local Government Act, so it's always a test that we have to make sure that we measure every single bylaw that we're looking at acting against.
Right. So
The proportionate.
Yeah, that's actually in the Freedom Camping Act.
Yeah.
it's also in the Freedom Camping Act as well. Yeah. Okay. The second question was,
The headline.
before we made the bylaw, we didn't seem to have the scale of the problem that we've got. So we've kind of jumped to a conclusion that the solution is having further restrictions. But I'm just trying to understand what the basis of that is, given that before we had the bylaw and the restrictions, we didn't seem to have anywhere near the scale of the problem that we've got. I couldn't find in the report any kind of analysis of that, but have you got a kind of any reasons why post bylaw we've got such a significant problem then compared to when we didn't have the bylaw?
I think what we've seen is reflective of the vast increase in tourism numbers that have come into the country this year, which is being fueled by a number of different factors, including low-cost airfares and disruption elsewhere within the world, which dictates where people sometimes seek to come on holiday. It's reflected in the numbers that we've seen through some of the commercial app providers around the 100 to 200% increases that we've been aware of since the production of the report in the number of people who are using those apps. So we've got a couple of things that are going on. We've got an increase in tourism numbers, an increase in tourism numbers of people who are looking to travel low cost. We've got New Zealand being promoted as being a freedom camping destination. And we've also got those people who are looking to move around the country as cheaply as possible, and the issues that sit around for all of the authorities that I've spoken to across the country. The issues are around non-self-contained private motor vehicles, but it is driven by differentiation in costs and a huge increase in the number of people who are seeking to travel in that way.
So it was just a kind of unfortunate coincidence that those two things happening at the
It's kind of been that the social media, low-cost travel, it's almost ended up being a bit of a perfect storm, really.
Okay. And the third question was, I know in the monitoring you've made quite a lot of reference to things that have I guess, problems around facilities having maintenance issues, technical issues, just a number of things around a kind of at a maintenance level, but there's nothing in the resolutions that address that. So can you just tell me, I'd like to put a resolution that addresses, I know the one I'm familiar with is Sport Park, for example, where the maintenance and the fixing the facilities and cleaning up post the huge influx of people, maybe the same for the other sites. So can you just tell me what we're doing in that regard? So given we had all these problems, how are we actually fixing these areas that did have the huge influx of people in terms of the facilities, maintenance, the rubbish bins? They do look really untidy, quite unkempt.
So that sits with Parks Unit as the owner for those places to go through their normal process of remediation and damage repair that they would do. The issues that have been identified at those sites are unfortunately issues that are relatively common across all of the parks that we have. So it's a question of them just going through part of their normal maintenance schedule and they basically repair and replace those facilities. So if that's, for example, looking at the toilet facilities, they'll have a schedule on there where they'll be seeking to obviously put in place some.
Okay, I'd just like to signal some sort of resolution to actually get that work at the area, at the hotspots that did suffer, quite a lot through the influx.
So they won't be picked up in the full review then?
Well, it's happened now. So I mean, you've got, like, in my view, you've got like the toilets out of action at Municipal Park. Like, can't they just be fixed? You've got shrubs that are overgrowing, rubbish bins overflowing, litter everywhere. I mean, Paul's just done a bit of cleaning up. He might like to give some more explanation. But I just wanted something. I know when we went to the annual consultation on the peninsula in Akaroa, this was also raised in terms of farm, that the condition post the influx and huge numbers of Freedom Campers.
No, Freedom Farm was pretty there.
A lot of rubbish
Jimmy.
tins are overflowing.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. One question, do we undertake the full review of the bylaw? But the start your original procedure will be kind of commenced in May of last year, but right now we keep earlier, in the 1st of December this year, summertime, and also focus on the self-contained also camping issue. I'm concerned whether the scope of this full review is exactly the same as the kind of regular or traditional one, like through the SCP procedure, or probably we can take another shortcut way, can save the cost. This is my question.
The partial review or the full review will still, both of them require a special consultative procedure. So and we need to follow through the steps to analyse evidence and present to the council proposals for amendments to the bylaw based on the evidence and meeting the tests in section 11 of the bylaw for both partial and ultimately the full review as well.
Whether the time frame will extension, from now on till the summertime and close to maybe the winter time until in May of next year.
The extension of the temporary closure, you mean? That's for the Chief Executive for her decision about the temporary closure.
Yeah, but I mean the time frame of full review. I just want to know what's our time frame.
What is it?
For the full review.
I mean,
yes.
I haven't got a full time frame that I could give you this time that it would take for that review to take place. The purpose of this report was actually to then go forward to actually look at that, presenting that information in order from the appropriate experts to actually determine how long exactly a review of that nature would take place. Our information that we had before was that we could conduct that partial review before next summer, but a full review would take longer. So if we have that partial review, we do have the opportunity, as been mentioned, to address the non-self-contained issue before that time, but it will take a bit longer to gather all of the information for the full review.
Okay, thank you.
David? Oh, and then Paul. Sorry, Paul.
sure whether we've got 4A.
No, we haven't. They're still working on the wording. There's a lot of work to be done. We're going to have an adjournment. We're going to have an adjournment and get the wording right. So
Needs to be cautious rather than...
we're just, you know, this is not good process, but we'll get there.
I'm just going to pick up on Yanni's point. It doesn't actually fit with what we're doing here, but it does need to be picked up as an action point.
Yeah, I think
We're
that
just finding out.
the chief executive will follow up on that. But it's just a report back on the areas that were made available in terms of the impact on the infrastructure. Are there any more questions? Because otherwise I'll take it. Yeah.
I just want to also pick up on the point where you are looking at a total ban across non-self-contained units across Banks Peninsula. I want to make sure that the rest of Christchurch...
We're talking about the whole city.
Oh, the whole city.
Yeah.
But we've got to work the wording out. So I'm just going to take a...
Leanne, can I just ask for clarification? If, as we say, we're looking to LGA and other TAs to get a national kind of approach to a firmer act that's more uniform across the whole country, why would we then pursue a bylaw? That would not be required then, would it?
Be confident, that would require absolute confidence that we could get a law change between now and next summer.
Yeah, which I know that would happen. So we will need to pursue the full
Called
bylaw.
the traditional fallback position. Right, 10-minute adjournment and we'll be back in 10 minutes. And strictly 10 minutes. Right.